The morning haze rose above the dense fern-covered hills. Each leaf glistened with dew from the night fog. In the stillness of the dawn, nothing stirred except the soft tremble of wind brushing through the ancient trees. Beneath the thick canopies, a shape darted like a flicker of flame. It was small, fast, and silent. Anchiornis moved through the underbrush with quick hops and glides. Her feathers shimmered in shades of red and gray as the soft rays of sunlight touched her back. Unlike the larger creatures that stomped and roared in the open, she lived in shadows. The trees were her home, the branches her sky. She was not strong nor tall nor armored. But she had speed. And she had something few others dared to use, her wings. Perched on a twisted log, she looked out across the clearing. A low growl echoed in the distance. The sound froze her for a moment. She knew the voice of the forest, and this growl belonged to the hunter below, the silent jaws of a juvenile Synovinator. He moved like smoke and struck like a falling rock. Anchiornis turned her head and waited. Every sound mattered. A snapped twig, a hush in the wind, the beating of insect wings. The jungle taught silence, and she had learned it well. She crept forward. Her claws curled on the bark. One step, then another. Her eyes were sharp, wide, and curious. She followed a scent, not of prey, not of danger, but of something strange. In a shallow depression near the stream, a faint glow flickered. It was not fire. Fire belonged to the sky demons, or so the old windsinger said. But this was different. It shimmered pale blue across the surface of a broken stone. Anchiornis moved closer. The stone was half buried under roots, its surface cracked as if struck from above. The blue light pulsed in waves as if breathing. She blinked. Something inside her stirred. A tug in her chest like a calling from far away. She pecked at the stone gently. A sharp snap broke the quiet. The light flared, then faded, leaving only a faint warmth in the air. The jungle held its breath. Then the silence broke. A rush of wind blew through the canopy. Branches shook. Leaves scattered. Something moved in the sky. Anchiornis jumped back, her wings flaring wide. A shadow passed over the clearing. Not a predator she knew. Not any bird or flyer she had ever seen. It soared without sound. It left no scent. And then it was gone. Anchiornis stood still, her chest rising and falling. Her feathers twitched. The blue glow had vanished, yet she felt its memory inside her. Something had changed. From that moment on, the wind spoke clearer, the scents smelled richer, and her leaps felt lighter. A spark had awakened. Behind her, the Synovinator watched from the shade. His amber eyes locked on her shape. He did not understand the stone or the light, but he felt it too. A shift in the world. A threat or a challenge. Anchiornis returned to the trees, her claws gripping the bark as she climbed. The forest whispered louder than before. Her wings stretched wide. Not just for gliding. Not just for escape. But for something more. Far above, the clouds gathered, and a low rumble crawled across the land. The first spark had come. The winds would carry its echo, and Anchiornis would follow it into legend. The trees rose higher than mountains in Anchiornis's eyes. Their limbs stretched far and tangled like ancient fingers woven into the sky. Between their trunks, the world was alive with motion and light. Lizards crawled, birds chirped, insects buzzed, yet none of them noticed the small feathered shape crouched on a narrow branch far above the forest floor. Anchiornis stared down. The drop was dizzying. Wind pushed against her feathers, teasing them into flutter. She had glided before. Tree to tree. Branch to bush. A safe jump, a sure landing. But this time was different. Her heart beat louder than the wind. She remembered the stone. The blue glow. How her body had tingled when it flared. Ever since that moment, she felt lighter, not just in body, but in spirit. The trees spoke louder. The air moved with rhythm. The world pulled her forward. Anchiornis backed up. Her claws dug into bark. She leaned into the branch, felt its bend, felt the stretch. She looked ahead to another tree a good distance away. No branch reached between them. Just open space. The sky called. She ran. Her feet pounded the wood. Her wings snapped open. Her body lifted.
She leapt.
For one blink of time she fell. Wind roared past her ears. Her eyes widened. Then the wind caught her. Her wings held. She glided. Not straight, not fast. Her body swayed, her feathers trembled. But she was flying. Air wrapped around her and carried her forward. She leaned her body and changed direction. She flapped once.
Twice.
A beat of strength shot through her limbs. The second tree rushed closer. She twisted her legs forward, claws ready. The branch came fast. She landed hard.
Slid. Grabbed. She hung on.
A moment passed. Then she chirped loud and sharp. A call of triumph. The forest around her did not answer, but something had shifted. A troop of early mammals scattered in the undergrowth. A pair of lizards paused mid-battle and watched her from the bark. Anchiornis stood tall. Her wings spread. Her eyes scanned the sky. There was more out there. More to see, more to learn. Not just trees, not just glides, but flight. A sharp bark echoed below. Not a mammal. Not a lizard. A predator. Anchiornis froze. She knew that call. Synovinator. The same hunter that had tracked her near the glowing stone. She leapt again. This time without thinking. Her wings caught the wind better now. She curved through the air, like a leaf on the breeze. Below her the hunter dashed across the roots, jaws open, eyes fixed. But he was too slow. Anchiornis soared past him. Her feet grazed a leaf as she lifted toward the higher branches. She landed safe above a mossy ledge. The predator stopped below, snarling but helpless. His claws scraped wood. His gaze held anger. Anchiornis blinked.
She did not chirp this time.
She knew the jungle was still dangerous. Her wings were not yet strong enough to escape forever. She needed to train to grow. She needed to rise. Hours passed. The sun reached high. She tested herself again. One glide became two. A flap turned into a lift. A dive became a spiral. Each leap taught her something new: where to shift her weight, when to stretch her wings, how to twist her tail. It was not just instinct. It was practice. By dusk, she could cross open gaps between trees. She could drop, then rise. She could spin in air without falling. The sky was no longer a wall. It was a path. That night, as the forest settled into night, sounds Anchiornis roost on a wide branch high above the ground. The stars blinked through the canopy. She thought of the stone again. Its light. Its pulse. She could not explain it, but she felt as though it had opened a gate inside her. Not just to the sky, but to something far older. A memory, perhaps. Not hers. Something buried in bone and feather. The memory of flight. She drifted into sleep, her wings curled, close, her tail wrapped around the branch. The forest sang a lullaby of wind and leaves and distant rivers. And far to the north, beyond the cliffs and forests and swamps, something else stirred. Something watched the sky. The wind carried the scent of feathers and the echo of the first flight. The forest floor was a different world. Anchiornis had only known the upper branches, the safe, winding paths in the sky. Down here, the trees pressed closer together. Vines curled like serpents. The air hung thick with heat. Everything moved slower, but everything watched. She stepped lightly across the soft ground. Her feathers itched in the damp air. Her wings tucked close, her claws cautious. She wasn't supposed to be here. But the storm had come fast, the wind too strong. Her last flight had ended in a hard tumble through leaves and dust. Now the sky was hidden, and the shadows moved. Each breath tasted of earth and rot. Each step felt like it echoed. Anchiornis paused behind a fallen log. A strange track crossed the mud. Not her own, not the Synovinator's. It was wide, deep, and had a drag mark between the claws.
She sniffed.
The scent was wrong. It was not a hunter that ran. It was one that waited. She turned her head slowly. A strange bird chirped above. Then silence. Nothing moved. Then the ground shook.
Once.
Then again. Anchiornis pressed low. Her feathers flattened. Her eyes scanned the vines ahead. From the dark a shape rose. At first it seemed part of the forest. Then it moved. A skull the size of a tree stump. Jaws filled with curved teeth. Eyes that blinked like slow death. A Yutyrannus. It was not full-grown, but it did not need to be. Even young, it was a tower of claws and teeth. Its furred body brushed the ferns as it stepped. It sniffed the air. Anchiornis stayed still. The beast sniffed again. Then it lowered its head and began to dig through a rotted log. Insects burst into the air. The Yutyrannus snapped at them lazily. Anchiornis took a silent step backward. A branch snapped. The hunter turned. Anchiornis ran. She darted through the underbrush, wings folded. She leapt over roots and ducked under vines. The roar behind her shook leaves from trees. The chase had begun. The Yutyrannus did not run fast at first. It moved with a cruel calm, each step crashing. It knew the jungle belonged to it. Nothing escaped it here. Anchiornis climbed a low stump and launched into the air. She flapped hard. The trees above were close but not open. She could not rise yet. Not here. She dived and slipped between trunks. Her body twisted. Thorns scraped her side. Behind her the giant snapped at air. She found a narrow passage between two roots and slipped through. The Yutyrannus lunged after her, but its bulk caught on the trees. It snarled and slammed its tail. She ran until her legs burned. At last she found a dry mound thick with hanging moss. She crawled beneath it and waited. The jungle fell still. Only her breath filled her ears. Then a sound. Not the Yutyrannus. Closer.
Softer.
She looked out. A pair of eyes stared back. Small.
Bright.
Curious. Another Anchiornis. Smaller, younger, feathers a duller red. It chirped softly. Anchiornis blinked. The young one chirped again, then darted back into the dark.
She followed.
Together they moved through a narrow hollow. The path wound through roots and stones. The ground sloped upward. At last they reached a clearing high above the jungle floor. The stars peeked through the trees. The younger one turned and gave a short call. From the shadows others appeared. 3. Then 4. Then more. A small colony of Anchiornis living deep within the jungle. They looked at her with caution but not fear. She had come from the storm. From above. One stepped forward. Older.
Scarred.
His feathers streaked with black. He did not speak, but gave a slow nod. Anchiornis relaxed. She had survived the jungle of teeth. But her journey was far from over. In the sky above, a streak of light moved. Far beyond the trees, something burned through the clouds. The world would not stay the same. And neither would she. The morning came with thunder in the distance. Not the thunder of clouds or storms, but something deeper. A rumble that grew in the bones before it touched the ears. Anchiornis stood at the edge of the high clearing where the other feathered ones lived. Her body still bore the cuts of the jungle chase, but her eyes were bright. She watched the sky. The colony stirred behind her. Younglings chirped softly. Elders picked at bark. The black-feathered one, the scarred leader, sat on a root and said nothing. Anchiornis felt the air change. The wind had shifted. It blew from the mountains, now fast and cold. It carried scents that did not belong to the forest.
Ash.
Smoke. Stone. And fear. She looked down the slope. Trees swayed and branches twisted. The wind clawed at the canopy. The birds did not fly. The mammals hid. The forest itself crouched low. Something was coming. She turned back to the leader. He gave her a long stare. Then he stepped aside. The meaning was clear.
Go.
Anchiornis leapt from the root and glided down the slope. The wind fought her wings. It pushed her sideways and tried to fold her in air. She struggled but held on. She beat her wings against it. The gusts tore leaves from trees. She flapped harder. A sudden twist sent her spinning. She fell through branches and tumbled into a shallow pool. Mud soaked her feathers. She crawled out coughing. This was not just a storm. It was the breath of something massive. She climbed a ridge and looked north. There in the distance the sky broke open. Smoke rose from the mountain cliffs. A streak of fire crossed the sky. Then it vanished beyond the peaks. The wind howled. Anchiornis watched in silence. She had never seen fire from the sky. She had heard the stories, the old wind songs whispered by feathered mothers. Sky fire meant change. It meant the ground would wake. The rivers would rise. The hunters would grow hungrier. And the wind would rise or fall. She leapt again. Her body followed the air. Her wings moved not against the wind now, but with it. She adjusted her tail, shifted her shoulders. She let the current hold her. And then she caught it. The lift. It pulled her higher. Not just a glide now. She was flying again, but this time higher than before. She rose above the trees. The jungle spread below like a green sea. The wind no longer felt like a beast. It was her partner. She twisted her body, turned into the breeze, let it carry her sideways. Then she dropped and flared her wings. The wind pushed, and she danced with it. The world below blurred. She flew longer than ever before. Each motion smoother than the last. Each breath stronger. She soared above the ridge and saw the river far off shimmer with smoke. The trees bent eastward. She turned. She saw the mountain clearly now. It burned, not with fire, but with something ancient. The rocks glowed orange at the peak. Clouds circled above it, dark and thick. A tremor shook the sky. A second fire streak shot upward. It vanished. Then silence. Then a single cry. From above, Anchiornis looked up. A shadow moved across the clouds. Not a pterosaur. Not a bird. Something else. Wings wider than trees. A shape sleek and fast. It moved with purpose. And then it was gone. She hovered for a moment. Her chest thumped hard. The wind howled again. She turned back. The colony waited. They had to know. She dipped her wings and glided down. The wind now carried her not as prey or a leaf, but as a messenger, as something more. The forest below watched. The sky whispered. And Anchiornis flew not from fear, but toward her destiny. I did not fall gently. It came like a wave. A wall of wind swept across the canopy, pulling down branches and scattering leaves into the air. The birds were silent. Even the insects stopped humming. Anchiornis crouched beneath the roots of a twisted tree high above the colony hollow. She watched the northern sky. It burned. Not with stars, not with the quiet fire of the moon, but with streaks of orange and gold. Trails of flame tore across the heavens and vanished into the horizon. Each one fell with a hiss like hot breath over water. One struck the far ridge. The light flashed. Then thunder rolled. The ground shook a moment later. Anchiornis flinched but held still. The scarred leader stepped beside her. His feathers blew sideways in the wind. He gave no sound, just watched. He had seen many seasons. He had faced snakes' teeth claws storms. But not this. This was beyond their forest. This was skyfire. The mountain had cracked. Smoke poured into the clouds and fell back as ash. Trees turned gray. Water shimmered with heat. The animals moved without rhythm. Herds ran in spirals. Hunters walked in circles. Nothing followed its path. Anchiornis turned her eyes to the sky again. A red glow pulsed far off. Then it moved. Not flame, not a rock, but wings. The same shadow from before. It circled above the valley. Its body lit by the fires it passed. Its wings wide and still. It drifted like a whisper through the burning air. It saw everything. Anchiornis stood. She took one step forward. Then another. The wind bent the trees. Sparks danced around her claws. She ran. The others watched. Some chirped. Some followed. The leader did not stop her. She leapt from the ledge. The wind lifted her at once. It roared in her ears and pushed her high. But she held her form. Her feathers braced her wings, curved, her eyes locked on the horizon. She flew. Through smoke and ash. Past trees glowing orange from distant fire. Past mammals hiding beneath roots. Past other birds clinging to silence. The sky turned red. Below her a streak of flame tore through the forest. It cracked open trees and left glowing marks in the earth. She veered left. A spiral turn. Her tail bent into the current. She rode it out of the heat. Then, ahead, she saw something new. A clearing she had never known. It was black stone. Smooth and wide. It glowed from the center. In the middle stood the fallen shape of something that had flown, but not lived. A dead shell, metal and cold. It had no feathers. It had no face. But it had fallen from the sky. Anchiornis landed near it. Her claws touched the black surface. It hummed. The wind stilled. She stepped forward. The shell was broken in one place. Inside were shapes. Not alive. Not animal. Not known. But their scent lingered.
Old.
Not forest, not sky, not jungle. Something else. Something beyond the mountain. She turned back. The flames behind her had spread. She took flight again. She had seen something that changed the path of her kind. The jungle could no longer hold the truth. The sky was not just a roof. It was a road. The fire had come, not to burn, but to reveal. And Anchiornis would follow it, to whatever lay beyond. Rain came without warning. It fell hard and fast, turning leaves into drums and soil into rivers. Thunder rolled across the sky, not from the fire streaks this time, but from deep clouds heavy with fury. The forest blurred behind sheets of water. Every sound became a roar. Every shape became a shadow. Anchiornis flew low beneath the branches. Her wings soaked her feathers heavy. Each beat of flight cost her strength. She had left the strange black clearing hours before, following the path of smoke and wind, but now that path was gone. The world was water. She landed on a flat rock in the middle of a stream that had not been there before.
Her claws slipped.
She crouched low and caught her breath. She was alone. The colony lay far behind. The other feathered ones had not followed. Not into fire. Not into wind. Not into the storm. But Anchiornis had seen what they had not. She had seen something fall from beyond the clouds. And she had seen it break. Now she was soaked. Her wings useless. Her body cold. The storm had no shape and no end. She curled up beneath a leaning tree and waited. Her thoughts drifted to the glowing stone. It had changed her. Not her feathers, not her form, but something inside. She could hear things now. Feel things. The wind spoke to her. The stars burned brighter. And the storm was not just rain. It was a trial. Another thunderclap rolled across the land. A flash of lightning lit the trees, and in that instant, she saw a figure on the hill above. Not a predator. Not a bird. It stood upright.
Thin. Tall.
Its limbs too long, its shape too strange. Then the light vanished. She blinked. Nothing was there. Just the wind. She shook the water from her wings and stood. The storm tried to push her down, but she walked into it. Each step was slow. The wind slapped her face, the rain blinded her eyes. But she moved forward. She crossed a fallen tree now slick with moss. She climbed a slope that crumbled with mud. She reached a ridge and looked down into a flooded valley. There in the center of the dark water something pulsed.
Blue. Faint.
She stared. The same glow from the stone. The same light that had first awakened the wind in her blood. She leapt. Her wings spread but held little air. She dropped fast. The rain pulled her down, but the wind curved beneath her at the last second. She landed hard but upright. The water reached her chest, but she pushed forward. Each step toward the glow grew harder. The current pulled. The cold bit. But the light called. At last she reached it. A second stone. Smaller. Brighter. Floating above a flat rock untouched by the flood. She stepped forward. The rain paused. Just for a breath. Then the stone flared. The light hit her chest and shot through her wings. She cried out. The wind rose around her, but did not push. It lifted. It held. She spread her wings. Feathers shimmered. Power surged through her bones. The rain struck again, but it could not reach her. She rose. Not with a leap, but with flight. Real flight. Her wings caught the wind without strain. She moved through the storm as if it parted before her. The world below drowned. But Anchiornis flew above it. The storm roared. She answered. Not with sound, but with silence, with flight. She circled above the valley, above the trees, above the broken sky. And in that moment she was not small. She was not prey. She was not afraid. She was the wind.